What's going on, you guys? So the Los Angeles Chargers will have their work cut out for them in this draft. Honestly, the fact this team made the playoffs, it's a good team. Going to be a really good team for a long time under Harbaugh and everything. But there is a lot. There's a couple of needs that we have. Excuse me, not a lot, but there's a couple needs. Obviously, you got wide receiver, you got guard. I would argue defensive tackle to a degree, also corner. I know that there's a lot of other positions we go, maybe even running back. There's a lot of different directions we can go, but wide receiver would be, in my mind, one of the issues or needs that we need to address, whether it is in free agency, whether it is the draft. But today we're going to talk about just the draft scenario. So we've got our top 5 prospects, kind of just starting out at least in the first round, maybe even early parts of the second. So let's jump right into it. So first off, you got T-Mac, where coming up at Arizona, I would honestly argue between T-Mac as well as maybe Matthew Golden. Like I would say, arguably that those two would be my picks for the Chargers if they want to pick a receiver. So T-Mac, obviously, just what he's done this year: 84 catches, 1,319 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Like he's just absolute condor on the outside. Reminds me of Mike Evans. Like there's no reason he should not go top 10. And if the Chargers did want him, it would make sense. I think he'd be a one-on-one replacement for Quentin Johnston, who, I mean, he's been good, but we need to see more from Quentin Johnston. Let's just be honest about it. But I think that T-Mac would be a fantastic addition to this team, mainly playing on the outside. Just I think he can play in the slot. I think he could play anywhere, and I think that he would be definitely the player that we want to take a flyer on early on there, or at least straight up. That's the dream scenario for me. Now, Luther Burden III coming up out of Missouri, 61 for 676 and 6 this year. So the thing with Luther Burden is I would argue that he is probably the best playmaker in this draft, aside from Ashton Genty and all that, maybe even Travis Hunter, but Luther Burden's a stud. Like he arguably is the most explosive player in this class, and I do think that it does hold a little bit of candle to the fact that yes, you have Lad McConkey, you have Quentin Johnston, but maybe Luther Burden would be that guy as well. Maybe another speedster playmaker guy to take some attention off that would make some sense. Like I said, I would like a little bit of a bigger bodied wide receiver to make the plays here, but Luther Burden would be a really good consolation prize. I'm just going to be honest with you. Emeka Egbuka coming up out of Ohio State. He's been like the best, or like he's been surrounded by really good wide receivers at Ohio State for a really long time. But 81 for 1,011 and 10 touchdowns this last year. He's ready for the NFL. More of a slot player, so maybe this would be something to where you want Lad McConkey to expand his game a little bit. But I like E&E, like we've talked about, but he's a stud. But it would be McMillan and Golden for me. Speaking of Golden, so coming up out of Tejas, 58 catches, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns this last year. I would argue that he is the most versatile out of all these receivers. I know that Luther Burden can play a couple of different things, but he can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. I think he can even play in the backfield. Like Matthew Golden is, he's got good hands. He can run pretty much any route, and he's only going to get better. And so, with Matthew Golden, I think that realistically, you would want him to play pretty much all 3 different wide receiver spots, whether it is the X, Y, or Z. And so I think that you would be just fine bringing him on because, yes, he can play on the outside. He can be that big-bodied wide receiver, but he can also be a playmaker in the slot as well. Speaking in the slot, Alec Ayumaner coming up out of Stanford. So 63 for 831 and 6 touchdowns. So slot player, but can play a little bit on the outside. I do want to see a little bit more from a route tree perspective from him, and I really want to see a little bit more explosiveness. I'm waiting for the combine and all that stuff, but Alec would be somebody to keep an eye out for, especially if the Chargers go guard in the first round, or whether it's Booker, whether it's Sava Inaya, whoever it is. Ayumaner might be the guy that they go with, which is fine with me. And so, but those are kind of the 5 guys that I've really taken a liking to. I definitely expect us to do a little bit more background as the draft gets near and everything. But hey, who's a wide receiver prospect you guys are really excited about or want the Chargers to go get? Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and we'll see you on the next video.